Okay, I feel like I haven't made a video in a very long time. And I mean, usually my videos aren't very informative or entertaining. um, so they're not very necessary. They're kind of filler almost more than anything else. But I really wanted to take the time to make a video about these two drawings that I finished last week. Or the week before. I don't even remember. I don't know what day it is today. I wanted to make this video because I kind of don't want these drawings to get lost, or I don't know, I don't want to say taken for granted, because it doesn't really, I don't want to say that it doesn't matter either. You know, I want people to love my art, and I want people to have a positive reaction to it, but I feel like these are drawings that that mean more than I guess some people might imagine, right? I think a lot of times, and I've done it, I don't mean it in like a judgmental way or anything. Sometimes, you know, you go to a museum, you go to a gallery, and you see a piece of art, and it doesn't mean a damn thing to you. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that it's good. It just doesn't really evoke anything, right? It doesn't hit you. And again, that's not good. That's not bad, right? It doesn't mean anything. I feel like these drawings that I've made, just like any other artwork, if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. I think though that if it is for you, I think if you see these and something comes to mind that is not just something simple like, I don't know, not for me, right? I think if you feel gravitated towards them in a positive or a negative way, I think they kind of might mean something to you. To me, they mean something. I mean, I created them thinking, you know, about certain things. Most recently, this is going to be really a kind of sporadic thoughts type of video. I posted the top one, the top drawing, on a group. I don't remember what group. And you know, I got more people saying positive things about the drawing. Actually, I mean, I didn't get anybody saying anything negative. The group isn't really about like art criticism or anything like that. It's totally unrelated to art. But I had one person comment, and she kind of like dissected it without me even asking, right? I totally wasn't posting in this group to get attention or anything. I was just super excited to have finally created something that I can't stop looking at, and I love very much. And it almost feels like, as much as it came out of me, it's totally separate from me. I know that sounds really weird, but it's like its own I don't want to say human. I don't know what to say. It's like it has its own life. And to hear this, or not hear her, but to read what it evoked in this girl and this woman, was really fascinating, because it was kind of the theme around me making it. Let me zoom in on it, actually. And then It's gonna be a little wavy. I wouldn't even be able to tell you exactly how she broke it down. Like, she went down deep to, like, even the dots that you see in there, and yeah, she really, she took it pretty deep, and it was exciting, you know. This, I think it's really the first time that anybody has ever looked at my art and said something other than I like it or I don't like it, right? Like, but anyway, I wanted to actually break down what it means to me. I don't want people to look at any of my work, from like the simplest, most whatever drawing that I make to ones that look like they might be telling a story. I don't want anybody to ever look at my art and think of it in any other point of view other than the one that they need to think of. I really would like people to kind of look at my art and contemplate, reflect, and just kind of see what comes up. It's not about, well, intellectually, what does it mean? It's about, what does it mean to you and why? Like, what's going on within you that these drawings are kind of making you feel that way, right? So again, I am going to go into my own interpretation. And, you know, whoever listens to this and whoever likes this drawing, the style, whatever, blah, 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 you can go ahead and take some of what I'm about to say and put it into your own interpretation, your own perspectives. But I think it's so important. I want to emphasize that I really am making these so that other people might get from them what it is that they need in that moment that they see them. I feel like this is all kind of, it seems weird. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm really happy that I did. I'm really happy that I started, that it's not centered, it's bugging me. I'm just really happy that it exists outside of my head. Yeah, so yeah, I feel like I want to talk about really quick about how I have them. I don't have any room where I'm at. I'm in a bedroom and there's just stuff everywhere. This isn't my house. There's some stuff in here that's not even mine. Yeah, I don't have a studio. I don't have a proper place to really showcase these, so I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that it looks really crappy. I also don't have frames. I've been wanting to go look for frames, but I really think that I'm just gonna have to put these in like a roll, and just keep them until it's time to let them out, I guess. Because yeah, there's no room in here for frames or anything like that. So yeah, anyway, so this drawing, this one, this top one that you see, I'm terrible with naming. I've always been terrible with naming pieces of art, but I felt like I felt okay to call it Faith. And that's mainly inspired by the girl that decided to really break down her interpretation of it. That was one of the things that she mentioned. And yeah, it just makes sense. It makes sense. You know, you look at the bottom of the drawing, which is most of the drawing, right? Most of the drawing is very dark. It's kind of the bottom of the ocean, and there's this figure floating just at the surface level. And there's this light coming into this dark body of water. And I purposely left out a sun or a moon or just anything that we might think like, oh, this is where the light source is coming from. Because the light source, I wanted it to come from, don't on my finger, here, from this eyeball. And kind of from, from the rest of the design, right? And of course you see the figure is connected, right, to this eye, just like all of my eyes actually in my work. It signifies us. It signifies our reflections. It signifies our best selves or highest selves. As much as, and I think I've talked about this in another video, I'm not going to remember which one, but I talked about how it seems to be very difficult for some people to really look at themselves in the eye, right? Whether they're looking at themselves in a picture or they're looking right in the mirror, it's hard. And I've been there. It seems strange and it seems kind of silly. But sometimes there's just points in life where it's hard. As much as we're very, we all have eyes, right? When we are hanging out with our friends and we're having a conversation with them, it's very easy for us to like look at each other, right? But for some reason, it's really hard to look at ourselves. And I think that's very symbolic, right? Very kind of talking about maybe how it's so easy to like judge others. It's not so easy to judge ourselves, right? It's easy to look at what others are doing and say, oh, this person should not be doing it that way. I totally think that they should do it another way, blah, blah, blah. But how often do we do those things with ourselves, right? How often do we make those comments about our own lives and how we interact with ourselves? Yeah, so that's the eye symbolism. I know a lot of people think that it's creepy. This is another thing that I talked about in an older video. Somebody one time they asked me, "Oh, are you crazy?" And I had never heard this like spoken out loud, but for some reason there was something inside of me that understood what he was talking about. He said that people that draw a lot of eyes, that they have that they have mental problems, basically, that they're kind of like schizophrenic or something. And I think that's silly. I mean, first of all, I don't think that I have issues like that. We all have issues. I definitely have mine, but that's not something that I think I struggle with. But I think it's funny, like hearing something like that and realizing that there's a group of people that think that this is weird, that eyeballs are weird. But why? I think that's weird because we literally all have eyeballs, right? Like we all have them right on our faces. It's the first thing you see. So why would anybody be crazy? Why would eyes signify that, right? Why would it be a negative thing? I don't think that it's a negative thing at all. I think they're beautiful. When you look at somebody in the eyes, I don't know, there's just something, there's a whole other world that's in there. And we don't get to really see that. We never really will. We never really will? Yeah, we never really will. But we will be able to see our own. If we reflect, if we look at ourselves, we would be able to see a whole other world. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that. They're beautiful. You know, I think they're just beautiful. As much as somehow there's like this really dark creepiness that some people feel or think when they think of them, I think they're beautiful. I think they are, yeah, just depictions of our highest self. And so this figure is floating, you know, he's finally come through all of this dark stuff and he's finally reached the top. And he's reaching and he's reaching and he's almost there. And he's connected finally to his highest self. And these designs, all of these designs, for me, they signify life. They signify, you know, the parts of life that they kind of just pass us by. They kind of just flow, and they just kind of go through without us really noticing. It's almost like the really deepest parts of ourselves and our lives, the stuff underneath that is moving everything, right? I think about like what do they call it? Like in a factory, the line that's moving, right? There's an actual name for what I'm seeing in my head, but it's basically the line. And you see the line, and you see maybe the products that are being put on top of the line, and they're moving. But what is moving it? You don't really see what's moving it because there's like wheels or whatever, everything that's underneath the line, right? That's kind of what that is. It's got like this spiritual aspect, but for some reason it's more real. It's sharper. It's just more real than what we think is real life. Like if you look at the bottom and you look at the top, it's kind of blurry, no? In comparison to the designs. Because I think that's the real part of life, is everything that's underneath and that we might not be aware of or we ignore. It's important because it's also very real. And finally, we have the top portion. We have a very clear sky with a few clouds and a sailboat. And the sailboat is kind of like our goals, our dreams, you know, anything that we really hold to a high standard, somewhere where we want to be, right? Like you don't want to be stuck in this dark, blurry, murky water all the time. You want to get past everything to a better place, to a sailboat. Who doesn't want to be on a sailboat on the ocean on a nice clear day? And I think it's important to have faith when we're going through this, right? When we're swimming in these dark waters, when we're finally we're getting there, we're so close. It's very important to have faith. Yeah, it's you know, it's not my best work, I guess, in comparison to other drawings where maybe my technique was really beautiful or, you know, anything like that. But I really love this drawing. I love looking at it. I hope one day that, you know, it doesn't just stay in the role that I'm going to put it in, and that other people can see it. Yeah, so that's that one. I also made this one. Let me put this down. Goodness. Let me bring this in a little bit. Whoops. Sorry. Of course, I dropped it and I accidentally hit the button and it got cut off. So I'm gonna, obviously stitch them together. Anyway, so back to the art. This drawing, this bottom one, I was saying, before I realized that it cut off, I was saying that I am gonna make an entire series. I do have like my ideas written down and everything. And I feel like even though this is not the first drawing that I've made, I feel like this one would be number one. This is maybe not the most important, but there's something about this one that is kind of like the beginning. This one I'm choosing to call Template. At first, when I first thought of this drawing, I thought that I would call it the Book of Life, because they're giving each other a book, right? And it signifies basically this figure's life, and it's their story. It's everything from childhood, to adolescence, to adulthood, to maybe even death, right? It's this whole person's life. But I decided to, instead of calling it the Book of Life, calling it the Template, because it almost feels like in handing over, and I kind of drew it in a way where I didn't want it to seem like one was handing it over more than the other, or one was receiving it more than the other. It's the same person, and so I kind of wanted to make the audience, or at least when I shouldn't say that, because I don't want the audience to, I want the audience to interpret it themselves, but what I think, is that the whole book is known by all of this person, whether it's a child, the child version, whether it's the adolescent version, whether it's a 34-year-old, whether it's a 74-year-old version of this person. Both of these sides of this person, past, present, future, right? There's so many different ways that you could kind of look at it. Both know and both need to learn. So that's kind of why, or I'm hoping that I drew it in a way where the book could be handed over by this version, right, and received by this version, but it could totally also be that this version is handing it over and this one is receiving it. You just don't know. But it's the template. It's basically, look, here's our life. Here's what has happened thus far. Here's what is happening now, and here's what's going to happen in the future. And there's so many different ways, right, that a life can go. Of course, we see above them, not their faces, but the eyes once again. And we see the designs, right? I want to say that in all of my work, I have chosen to only use left eyes. I don't know if anybody has ever noticed that in like my smaller drawings, or even drawings that I haven't actually posted up, or like older drawings that some people have seen. I think that's something that nobody ever really asked me about. They probably just thought that it meant that I couldn't draw the other eye. um, but no, it's actually a choice to focus more on the left eye, right? I think about like ancient Egypt and the Eye of Horus and what it stands for. Usually, I think the Eye of Horus is depicted as the left eye, and the Eye of Ra is usually depicted as the right eye. So I purposely draw the left eye more than the right eye. In this drawing, I chose to do both because it's the same figure. You know, obviously, just by looking at the body, you can kind of tell that it's the same figure, but I wanted it to be even more present, and depicted that in the use of both the right and the left eye. The patterns, of course, the designs, I chose to keep them the same. I thought about making them different, but I think just because it's the same person, you know, as much as life can go so many different ways, I think that there is kind of like some fated events or some things that, you know, they're just, it's destiny, right? You're meant to do these things. So that's that depiction. On the sides, of course, is the darkness, just like we see in the top drawing. There's this kind of, there's always, right? There's always the dark in life. But the fact that these two figures are so like focused on each other, despite the darkness in the back, it's almost like it's like somebody that refuses to look at anything else. They just focus on themselves, on the reflection, and on growing, on learning. Yeah, of course, just like the top one, the designs are always going to be, these designs are always going to be clearer than the rest of the drawing. Sometimes I want to, no, in the past, I have wanted to make like the bodies hyper realistic, right? That's a very, very trendy thing that we have seen the last couple years or so. The hyper realism. But at some point, I realized that I really liked how this felt more, I don't know, more beautiful. Even though it's kind of blurry, it kind of just, it fits the overall theme and picture. You know, because life, I don't know, it just goes by so fast sometimes, and it just seems so blurry. The last couple days, I haven't been particularly busy, but it all feels like a blur. And it almost feels, I've also been meditating. I'll meditate 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes before bed. And it's really weird because it almost feels like when I close my eyes and I start meditating and I go to all of these different places right within my head, it almost feels clearer. It almost feels more real. than what's going on outside in real life. Yeah, so I think all of my drawings right now and the ones that I have planned for this series, they're definitely really deep dives into the subconscious, trying to figure out the bottom layers, trying to figure out those pieces that we're not always aware of, but that somehow move us, right? Kind of like the lines at a factory. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm really happy with these. I almost, just out of habit, want to say something negative about him. Like, I almost want to say, oh yeah, like I could have done this better, I could have done that better, whatever. But I don't actually feel that inside of me. I'm really truly happy with these drawings, and I hope that one day I can show them to people, right? I can have them hanging up in a gallery or somewhere where there's better lighting. I try to take pictures of them, and that's white, right? Like the middle is white. I'm using white paper. The sides obviously have the black chalk pastel. But yeah, I tried to take a picture the other week or a couple days ago, and they came out gray. The lighting in here is horrible. I have the top light on without the like fixture thing. I also have the window open. It's just super gray in here. It's really hard to work with. I also don't have lamps. Like, I don't have those fancy photographer lamps. So but it is white paper. The bodies and the designs and eyes are made with graphite, and the darkness, we'll call it that, is black chalk pastel. So yeah, this is my interpretation of these drawings. Of course, I really, 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 really hope that anybody that sees them, whether they're posted on Instagram, whether it's through this video, or even one day if they ever get hung up in a gallery, I would want that person to really reflect on their own feelings, their own thoughts, and get what they need from being in front of these images. So yeah, thank you for making it through the video. If you've made it this far, I hope you're having a great day, and I hope that you have an even better night, depending on where you're at, right? Thank you. Bye-bye.